Mr. Deepak Bagla, thank you so much for joining with us, the Australia Today.
Thank you, Pallavi. It's truly a pleasure.
Mr. Bagla, I want to begin by asking that if you look at the current situation, there's not too much investment coming from Australia into India. So, are there any plans to address that and to increase India investment literacy in Australia?
In fact, Pallavi, that's a very interesting question. You know, when we started Invest India in 2015, and especially during the past 48, 60 months, this has been something which I personally have been very engaged with and trying to focus on. You know, what I could not understand. If you look at it, the three pillars of any strong relationship is people to people, government to government, and most importantly, business to business. And two of those pillars are very strong in this relationship. The people to people connect, our strong diaspora presence here, and their respected diaspora contribution on both sides. The government to government, we've seen how important the relationship between these two countries is. But now I think hopefully with the trade pact happening and with the Quad and everything around it, I see the strong complementarities between these two countries take off now on the business side of it. And the very interesting element of that, Pallavi, is that, you know, the importance of Australia for us cannot be stressed enough. Especially where Invest India is concerned, we have a dedicated team which is working only to support Australian business looking at India, which as we know is an unprecedented market opportunity as we look at it, and the ability for these businesses to expand their balance sheets as we go forward. But what's most heartening and encouraging for me is that as I speak with you, today the team has been working on 239 business requests from Australia for India, and most interestingly, across 33 sectors. If I had looked at this just 5 years ago when we started this special team, the number of these sectors was just about 8. So the breadth of the interest and the opportunity of this interest is now expanding in a very significant manner. The other very interesting element, Pallavi, if I may just add on this one, is the growing strength of the pillar of innovation and startups. You know, startups is now one of the biggest stories out of India. The Honorable Prime Minister launched Startup India on January 16, 2016. We are just 72 months away from it. Today, India is number 3 in the world in number of unicorns, number 2 in the world in number of startups, and number 1 in the world with new startups adding every day. And what these startups are doing is just disrupting every which way on which our lives are concerned. And I'm seeing a similar movement in Australia. And I think what I'm now going to see going forward, and I can see it very clearly, and I'm very, very excited and encouraged about, is how we will see the strength of this community of startups and innovators getting together. And not only just getting the best solutions for the people in Australia or the people in India, but together for the people of the world. And you will see this pillar now strengthen and take forward this relationship onto a completely new dimension as we enter into a new disrupted world. I also look at this relationship as being a very defining relationship in a much larger sense, not just in the geopolitical sense of it, but on the larger sense of the new worldview of how everybody is looking at us. So with that, I think there is a very significant level of encouragement, excitement. And we are depending very strongly on the diaspora, on all of you to help us to strengthen this corridor further. I must mention what has been done by the Australia-India Business Council and all of you together. And also, I must also stress very strongly that one of the key points where the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, has always focused on is to see how we can work together and closely with our diaspora, with our fellow Indians across the globe, to see how we can expand and partner with the world to create the best for everyone. And this is the partnership which we want to focus on very intently, where Australia is concerned especially, to see and take it forward.
Mr. Bagla, are there any specific sectors which could become a priority, say, for Australian institutional investors to begin with, so that so that India can get more investments from Australia? Are there? You mentioned that there's like a lot of sectors now, but any core sectors which you are concentrating on?
So Pallavi, I mentioned to you about the 33 sectors, but more importantly, the first part, I'm seeing a cross-border exchange of investments. It's not just from Australia into India, but just as an example, of the 105 plus unicorns I have, they are very actively looking to expand their balance sheets and investments into Australia. And not just that, even my traditional businesses. So you remember my earlier pillars of this corridor were primarily on mining, a little bit on energy, a lot on food, and education has always been a strong pillar. But now the new pillars which we are looking forward to are based on renewable, on sustainability, on waste to wealth, on circular economy, and very importantly, as I've been seeing a lot of interest, on fintech, on banking and financial services. And what has been most important to each one of us, especially after this little COVID has impacted us, has been healthcare. So the kind of solutions which have been coming out of the tech world and the medical world, both on medical devices and others, I think this is where the sharing and common learning will be of immense help. So these are just some of the sectors going forward, but the other sectors, space, maritime, defense, these are just some of them which I'm mentioning to you. But as I said, the list now goes long, and I'm looking at entertainment which is going to be beyond just cricket and hockey. And I'm also looking at multiple other ways. We will probably soon have Bollywood movies being shot more here and Australian movies being shot more in India.
Yeah, just one last question, Mr. Bagla, that so far if we look at the perceptions around India, India is seen more as an export market for minerals and or maybe getting students for education, and we also see the balance of trade between the two countries is currently skewed towards Australia. So any steps to maybe change that perception and really expand the kind of sectors into which Australians can invest in India?
Pallavi, this is clearly an area we need to work on a lot. You know, the thing about what is happening in India today is probably one of the most unprecedented transformations in human history, both in terms of the pace at which that change is happening and the scale at which that change is happening. And for anyone to be able to be brought up the curve on that change which is happening on a daily basis is very important. There's a new disrupted world, as I mentioned, which is now taking shape for each one of us in our personal lives, in our social lives, and in the lives of our countries and the world together. And within that change, that pace of change is extremely rapid. And this is where I think communication is now becoming more and more critical. And we, together with our partners here, are looking to see what we can do. But I think it is incumbent on each one of us, not each one of us only as a member of the diaspora, but each one of us as a citizen of our respective countries, to see that how we can bring in change and exchange views with each other on a regular basis, to showcase the new opportunities and the synergies which are being created, and to showcase the new solutions which can bring the best for ourselves and our people.
Yeah, and lastly, anything you might want to say to all the Australians who would be watching this interview, why they should invest in India?
Pallavi, the time is now. There's a new India taking shape. There's a new India which is partnering with its closest of partners. And now is the time to hold our hands and walk together to see how we can bring that change and make a better life for each one of us.
Mr. Bagla, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you, Pallavi.